Good morning students. I am Shipriya Bhattacharya and I am going to be taking your first biology class of class 7 and the chapter's name is Obtaining and Utilizing Food. Children, before we go into the chapter proper, let us first recapitulate what we have learnt about food in class 6. If you remember, we started the chapter food and we had learnt about why food is important to us. We had learned that food provides us with energy and we require this energy to carry out all our activities. Next, food keeps us healthy. That means it keeps us protected against all kinds of germs and the diseases. Next, food helps us grow. Food helps us grow, and finally, food helps us in repairing all old and injured tissues. This we had learnt in class 6. We had also learnt about herbivores, we had learnt about carnivores, we had learnt about scavengers, we had learnt about plants, we had learnt how differently all organisms are adapted to obtain their food, right? So, having said this children, now we will go into nutrition. What is nutrition? Nutrition basically is the name of the topic itself. Obtaining and utilizing food is what is nutrition. Alright. So, nutrition means it is the way by which an organism acquires its food and how it utilizes the food after that, right? And so what is nutrition? It is a process by which organisms obtain and utilize food. This is what is nutrition. Now, depending on how an organism obtains its food, nutrition can be classified. Depending on how an organism obtains its food, nutrition can be classified into two broad categories. Now, what are those categories? Those two categories are autotrophic nutrition and the other category is heterotrophic nutrition. The word autotrophic means, the word auto means self and the word trophy means nourishment. Autotrophic nutrition, the word auto means self and the word trophy means nourishment. That means autotrophic nutrition is a kind of nutrition where organisms obtain their own food without depending on any other organism, or in other words, organisms which can make their own food. How do organisms make their own food? Organisms which show autotrophic nutrition make their own food from the simple raw materials available in their surroundings, and they do not depend on any other living organism for these raw materials, right. So, organisms which show autotrophic nutrition are known as autotrophs. What is heterotrophic nutrition? Hetero, the word hetero means different and the word trophy, as we have seen earlier, means nourishment. That means heterotrophic nutrition refers to that mode of nutrition where the organisms cannot make their own food and they depend on other organisms for their food. In other words, heterotrophic nutrition is that mode of nutrition where organisms depend on ready-made food. They cannot make their own food and they depend on ready-made food. So, just a quick recapitulation. Nutrition is the process by which living organisms obtain their food and utilize it. And depending on how they obtain their food, organisms or rather their modes of nutrition can be classified as autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition. Autotrophic nutrition, these are those organisms which are self-feeders. They can feed their own cells, they can make their own food from the simple raw materials available in their surroundings, and they are not dependent on any other organism for this nutrition. Whereas heterotrophic nutrition refers to that mode of nutrition where organisms cannot make their own food and they depend on other organisms, or they depend on ready-made food sources. Okay. Having said this, let us first see what makes an organism autotrophic. How can they make their own food? Why do autotrophic organisms make their own food? Autotrophic organisms make their own food because they are capable of performing a process which is known as photosynthesis. I repeat, autotrophic organisms are self-feeders, or autotrophic organisms can make their own food because they are capable of performing a process called photosynthesis. What is photosynthesis? Now let us split up this word as we have split up autotrophic and heterotrophic. The word photo means light, and the word synthesis means to put together. To put together. So that means photosynthesis is a process by which something is put together in the presence of light, right. So we say autotrophic organisms put together certain things in the presence of light to make their own food. Let us see what these things are. What is put together during photosynthesis? What is put together during photosynthesis is carbon dioxide and water. These two are put together, right. These two are put together by the autotrophic organisms, which will help them make their food, which is nothing but glucose. In addition, another product is also formed along with glucose, which is called oxygen. Are you understanding? Autotrophic organisms, by the process of photosynthesis, put together carbon dioxide and water, and they make glucose and oxygen. This happens in the presence of sunlight. This happens in the presence of sunlight and a green pigment called chlorophyll. The entire process of photosynthesis, where carbon dioxide and water are put together to form glucose and oxygen, this entire process happens in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. So now you know which are those organisms which can perform photosynthesis. So name a few organisms which can perform photosynthesis. So since it requires the presence of chlorophyll, the first name of organism that comes to your mind are the plants. All plants have chlorophyll in their leaves, which gives their leaves a green color, and which is why all plants can perform photosynthesis. In addition, there are some very small tiny plants normally found in water bodies, which are called algae. They also contain chlorophyll and they can also perform photosynthesis. Also, there are some bacteria as well. A very few bacteria which have chlorophyll in their cells, they can also perform photosynthesis. So broadly, these three classes of organisms have chlorophyll in them, and hence they can perform photosynthesis. What is the role of sunlight? Sunlight is the energy giver of this reaction. Sunlight provides the necessary energy required to put together carbon dioxide and water. But who takes the energy of sunlight? Chlorophyll takes the energy of sunlight, and gives it to carbon dioxide and water so that they can combine and form glucose and oxygen. Okay children. Now in this reaction, glucose is the main product and we refer to oxygen as the byproduct. We refer to oxygen as the byproduct. Why is oxygen called a byproduct? Oxygen is called a byproduct because when these organisms, when the plants or when the algae or when the bacteria, when they perform photosynthesis, their intent is not to make oxygen. The intent is to make food, which is glucose. But oxygen is also additionally produced in the process and hence it is referred to as the byproduct of the process. So is this clear to all of you? Okay. Now this is known as, this what we have written here is the word equation of photosynthesis. This is known as the word equation of photosynthesis. We will put this in the form of a chemical equation. Let's see. 6 molecules of carbon dioxide combined with 12 molecules of water in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll and produces glucose, which is their food, and oxygen as the byproduct. This is known as the chemical equation of photosynthesis. Additionally, 6 molecules of water is also produced. You see, water is both utilized in the process and also produced in the process. Lot of water is utilized and a little bit of water is released, but nevertheless this is the chemical equation of photosynthesis, wherein 6 moles of carbon dioxide combines with 12 moles of water in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll and gives rise to glucose, which is the main product, the intended product, and the byproduct, that is oxygen, and 6 moles of water. Okay. Now let us now see how plants obtain these requirements. How do they arrange for their requirements? About where these raw materials of photosynthesis come from. We had said that these organisms are autotrophic organisms because they don't depend on any other living organism for their food. They procure simple raw materials from their surroundings and they put it together in the presence of light to make their own food. Let us see where they acquire the raw materials from. The first raw material is carbon dioxide, and we have a lot of carbon dioxide in the air. So air is the source of carbon dioxide for these organisms. And we have also learnt in class 6 that on the surface of the leaves there are innumerable small pores called stomata. So the carbon dioxide present in the air enters into the leaves through the stomata. Okay. Now the next requirement, the next raw material is water. Water is present in the soil. When the plants absorb water through the roots, it is the same water which goes up through the stem into the leaves where the process of photosynthesis takes place. So you see, neither for carbon dioxide nor for water does the plant depend on any other living thing, and hence they are known as autotrophic organisms. Okay. Now we will do some simple experiments to prove why carbon dioxide and water are essential for photosynthesis. Let us begin with the experiments. Experiments of photosynthesis. Before we start off with the experiments, children, one more fact you need to know is that we have seen that during photosynthesis what is produced is glucose. Now this glucose which is produced, some of it is immediately used up by the plant, right, and the remaining portion of it is stored as starch in the form of starch in the leaves. The remaining glucose which is made in photosynthesis, which is not used up immediately, is converted to starch and stored in the leaf. So, if I test a leaf for starch, if I want to see if it contains starch or not, it should give me a positive test. So, how will I go about it? What will I do? I will pluck a leaf from a healthy plant, a plant which has been kept out in the sunlight say for around 3 or 4 hours and which has been photosynthesizing. So, I pluck a leaf from such a plant and I take a test tube. In the test tube I have alcohol. I have taken alcohol and I dip the leaf in the alcohol. This I take in a water bath. I take this in a water bath and I heat it by a Bunsen burner. This contains water. This is alcohol and this is water. What will I observe? I will observe that as the water starts getting heated up, the alcohol also warms up and this alcohol gradually withdraws all the chlorophyll from the leaves. I will wait till the entire leaf has turned white and the alcohol has become green because the alcohol has extracted the chlorophyll from the leaf. Now this white leaf, now the leaf has become white, this white leaf, the next step which I do is I turn off the flame, wait for the apparatus to cool down, then take the test tube, throw out the alcohol, pluck out the leaf, take a tray, put the white leaf on the tray, and splash some hot water on the leaf so that the alcohol is completely washed off. The next step is to the same white leaf I add a few drops of dilute iodine solution. When I add a few drops of dilute iodine solution, I will see that the leaf has turned blue-black. I will see that the leaf has turned blue-black and the blue-black color of the leaf will indicate the presence of starch in the leaf. In other words, it will indirectly indicate that this leaf had been performing photosynthesis, which is why there was starch in the leaf, and it is this starch which has turned blue-black upon addition of iodine. Now this is known as the starch test. This tests the presence of starch and hence it is called the starch test. We can use the same starch test to perform two other experiments which will show me why carbon dioxide and sunlight are essential for photosynthesis. So what do we do? In the first, let us first see an experiment wherein we are going to see experiment to show the importance of chlorophyll in photosynthesis. We are going to start with a variegated leaf. What is a variegated leaf? A leaf which is not uniformly green. The best example you can think of is a money plant, a money plant's leaf. Have you seen that in a money plant's leaf there are some green and there are some non-green areas? So, we will start with a Similar leaf is either a money plant or maybe a leaf of a coleus, leaf of a croton. All these leaves are variegated leaves. That means they show some green areas and some non-green areas. So, let us start with that kind of a leaf. Let us say I am taking a money plant's leaf. I take the leaf of a money plant and consider this area to be the non-green area. Consider this area to be the non-green area of the money plant. What do I do? First, I will first take a tracing paper or a butter paper and I will put the butter paper on the leaf, right. When I put the butter paper on the leaf, I can see the impression of the leaf from underneath. So, what will I do? On the butter paper, I will trace out the outline of the leaf and I will mark the green and the non-green areas, right. I will take a butter paper, I will put it on the leaf and I will trace out the outline of the leaf, and on the leaf itself, on the butter paper, I will mark the green areas and the non-green areas. Now, I keep the butter paper aside. I will be using it later on for reference. What do? I take this leaf and I perform the same starch test which I have done some time ago. I take this leaf. What do I do with this leaf? I put it in alcohol and that alcohol goes in a water bath. We heat the water bath and the alcohol gets heated and we go on heating till the chlorophyll fades away, and then we take the leaf out, we splash boiling water on it and then we add dilute iodine solution. Upon addition of dilute iodine solution, what we will observe is only those parts of the leaf which were green in color has turned blue black. Only those parts of the leaf which were green in color has turned blue black, and the non-green part continues to remain white or continues to remain colorless. It has not turned green, showing that starch was present only in the green area. In other words, starch has been made only by the chlorophyll containing parts of the leaf, showing that chlorophyll is essential for photosynthesis. Now, we will go into another experiment which will show us the importance of sunlight in photosynthesis. The importance of sunlight in photosynthesis. Again, we will start off with a leaf, a normal leaf, not a variegated leaf this time, a normal leaf from a plant which has been in the sunlight for some time and has been photosynthesizing. We take such a leaf and okay. Before we pluck it, what do? We tie a black paper. We put a black paper on both sides of the leaf, a black paper on both sides in the center part, in the central part on both sides of the leaf, and we can fix it up with some clips so that it does not fall apart. So, we do this experiment and let the plant remain in sunlight for 3 to 4 hours. After 3 to 4 hours, we pluck the leaf, we remove the clips and we perform the similar starch test with this leaf also. What we will see is that portion of the leaf which was not covered by black paper has turned blue black in the starch test, and this portion which was covered by the black paper does not turn blue black, shows that these areas of the leaf which received ample sunlight were able to photosynthesize and had made starch, which is why they gave me a blue black color upon addition of iodine. But this area which was covered by the black paper received no sunlight and hence there was no starch production in this area, and hence when we added iodine solution, this area continued to remain white, it did not give me a blue black color. So, these two experiments children prove that first one has proved that chlorophyll is essential for photosynthesis, and the second experiment proves that sunlight is essential for photosynthesis. And the first experiment which we did is a starch test, which is the basic test which shows us how will we test if a leaf has starch in it or not. Thank you children.